Paul, thanks for being with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. Now, Seeing Machines is an industry leader in vision-based monitoring technology. Let's start with a brief overview of your technology.
So our technology is built on 20 years of research into human behavior, real-time scenarios, real-time observations, real-time data. We develop algorithms driven by AI and machine learning. We have specific intellectual property and capability in developing the optical pathway. We package all of that up in a way that enables us to really develop intelligence that enables machines to see.
Now, you recently announced a partnership with Qualcomm. Let's talk about that deal.
Yeah, so Qualcomm's obviously a very significant player in the chip space. Our technology that is embedded primarily in automotive vehicles, fleet and mining trucks, and aircraft training simulators requires significant computational processing power. So when you think of a relationship between someone like Qualcomm, who's very large, and someone like us, who is very technical and specialized, it brings some real value to the table for the world's largest automotive manufacturers. And I think what's been recognized, particularly out of this show that we've just finished at the CES in Las Vegas, is that driver monitoring technology will be in every car. So that's the interest of Qualcomm. It's also the interest of ours, and we're hoping that this partnership together can really drive our volume.
What's the essential value proposition? Why should investors take an interest in Seeing Machines today?
Well, there's a few reasons. One reason is to do with the history. So we've been at this 20 years, and new investors won't have to bear the burden of that long journey. So that's one thing. The second thing is that right now it's very evident that driver monitoring systems are central to the future of cars. So almost all of the new systems that are being deployed in today's cars and the cars of tomorrow, whether they be to do with semi-autonomous driving, safety, fully autonomous driving, all require some direction from eye gaze and head tracking. So driver monitoring systems are not the entirety of that technology, but they're central to enabling it to work. So I think the whole industry this week is totally convinced that DMS will be in every vehicle before too long.
How big is the market opportunity?
Well, there are roughly 100 million cars manufactured a year around the world. Regulators in Europe and shortly the rest of the world are mandating camera-based driver monitoring systems in all new cars from 2024. So the market size is 100 million units a year.
It makes sense. Talk to us about your business model. How do you make money?
Okay, so look, we focus on the transport market, and we operate in three sub-segments. Automotive vehicles, I mean, in that space, we are essentially selling software licenses. And those licenses are either integrated with other technologies that are being embedded inside a new vehicle, or via a chip, which may be a Qualcomm chip or a Xilinx chip. And we literally charge by vehicle installed. So as cars roll off the production line, we receive our license fee. We have a second business, which is what I call an aftermarket business, where we put the driver monitoring technology embedded in an aftermarket product into fleet trucks and mining vehicles. We have approximately 20,000 fleet trucks and mining vehicles. In that space, we provide a 24/7 safety service. So that's a recurring revenue business model. We bill by the month, and that enables large fleet owners to mitigate fatigue and distraction risk in their drivers. And then in the aviation space, our first environment is putting our eye tracking technology into pilot flight training simulators. And that's much more similar to the fleet business model. We sell an upfront license, and then we have a recurring royalty that occurs over the life of that contract. So there's a mix of piece rates in auto and recurring revenue in fleet and aviation.
Excellent. Give us a brief overview of your background.
Well, I'm a non-traditional CEO of a tech company. Let me just say that. So my background has been in investment and corporate advice. I spent 10 years with a global multinational in Australia called Brambles. I was the CEO of the Asia Pacific CHEP business and the global head of strategy planning and innovation. So I really come at this from a corporate perspective. Part of my job here is to help corporatize the business and improve the level of internal performance and external performance. But I have a very strong background in supply chain, manufacturing, and services.
What are some corporate milestones you hope to achieve in 2020?
Great question. 2020 is a very important year for us. We'd like to ensure that the relationships we've built with the likes of Qualcomm and Xilinx are successful, and we hope to win some additional OEM business. We're focusing very heavily right now on Japan, which is looking very, very good. On the fleet business, we have an objective to increase the volume of installed units by more than 70%. So that's really important to us. And this is the year where we expect to see the full-blown launch of our eye tracking technology into the aviation space, into those pilot training simulators. So they're really our three goals for 2020.
Well, you've actually answered my final question, which was, what's the main takeaway for investors today? Anything you want to add?
Look, the thing I'd like to point out is that it's very unusual for a very small company like ours that's been involved in R&D for 20 years, I think, to be at a point where the entire industry is saying your product will be in every vehicle. And safety regulators around the world are actually supporting that movement rather than fighting against it, which is often the case. So there's a technical take-up rate, there's a market change, and there's regulatory support, and it's happening right now.
Timing sounds good for investors, Paul. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.